This video was created to reflect the picture of real estate market in Batumi and to structure the changes that have taken place in the city over the last few years. It will be useful for people who are looking for apartments, houses or flats in Batumi. The channel also has a lot of detailed reviews of residential complexes in Batumi and the Russian version with 150 useful videos about Georgia in general and Batumi especially. For today, I visited about 70% of new buildings in Batumi and interviewed developers and sales departments. The information that you will see in this video is supplemented and supported by a large number of interviews with prices, panoramic shooting and other useful details. I inform you that I do not sell real estates and I also do not give an estimating opinion to one or another residence. These videos that I collect when interviewing developers should not be direct instruction for buying. Everything that they say in their videos should be checked by requesting a specific package of documents from the building companies. It is also a good idea to look at the finished buildings by this or that developer before making a decision. So I mean you need to first to see buildings that they built before. You can learn the specific of real estate transactions in Georgia, in Batumi, in particular from the video How Not to Buy an Apartment in Batumi. It's on the Russian version of the channel. And I also interviewed a real estate agent where I asked questions about what to check when you are buying estates in Batumi. It is called Georgia Batumi, How to Check the Developer. Both of these videos can be found by clicking on the recommendation button in the upper right corner of the screen. They are in Russian, but there are subtitles in English. Let's move to the review. What is Batumi city and why do people move here to live? It is a Black Sea town on the coast of Georgian region of Ajara with population about 150,000 people. During the tourist season, the city is fulfilled with tourists. This happens between June and October. In Batumi, the construction of new residential complexes is actively developing, and the main question that arises for a person who watched this or for the first time, who shall live there? New buildings in Batumi are filling up with residents and non-residents of Georgia despite of skeptics' opinion. I sometimes take photos of houses during the tourist season and post them to the community section of my Russian version of a channel, just for understanding how things are going. Now let's look at some statistics. Before the start of pandemic, I mean during 2019, about 10 million tourists visited Georgia. About 35% of them visited Batumi, so about 3 million people passed through the city in a year. The largest apartment complex in Batumi has 5,500 apartments. Averagely, a big building consists of 600 apartments, a small building consists of 100 apartments. In the city and beyond, in districts Gonio and Mohinjuri, there are about 150 of such buildings. As a result, we have about 30,000 properties that will be commissioned in the near future, in the nearest future, I mean, will be sold. Is it a lot of, or is it not enough for 3 million people? That is a debatable question, so you just need to understand 30,000 properties, 3 million tourists per year. The main point people are interested in, is it enough or is not it enough? Just a little bit of mathematics and you shall understand whether it is interesting to you or not. But I shall answer these questions with statistics, I think, during the whole video. But first, let's move to the investment goals. My experience in real estate, I've been working for several years in Bulgaria, in Russia, on Cyprus, and in Batumi I don't do this job. I'm not interested in selling real estates because it's a very hard job. So my experience shows that people usually buy real estate outside the city on their permanent residence for several purposes. First is saving money. Money turn into nothing, inflate their value. By saving money, we hope to have an intangible asset in the future, which if something happens, we can sell or rent and cover our expenses. Another purpose of investing is speculation. Buying apartment cheap and selling with profit, it is more attractive than a bank deposit. For example, the price in a residential complex, let's call it complex A, in 2016 was $600 per square meter at the zero level of constructing. Today, at 21st year, the price is $1,300 per square meter. The difference is more than 100% over a period of 5 years. Another very popular residential complex in Batumi costed $1,200 per meter. Today, apartments there are selling by investors for $1,300, and they are happy when have a chance to sell them. The price has not changed at all. The reason of such difference is very simple. In building A, it was built with less infrastructure and was completed in time. People live in it. It has an attracting appearance and liquidity. That's why people want to buy apartments there. In building B, people have not yet received the final ownership for their apartments still. It was advertised as a residential complex with a huge infrastructure with doubled and that doubled its price at the zero level of construction. As a result, the infrastructure was never completed. Therefore, at the moment, the owners of apartments in Complex B are happy to get rid of their purchases at the same value, realizing that their expectations were not come true. Buildings of types A and B appears not only in Batumi market, but also everywhere in the world. Cases where real estate is sold below the purchase price are very, very rare and are usually caused by critical circumstances in the life of the seller. Usually an unsuccessful investment in the real estate market leads maximum to the return of the investments. But the real purpose of investment is to earn money, isn't it? And the third purpose of investing in Batumi, and not only in Batumi in general, is renting income. This is a purchase when you aim of earning money or on renting apartments with the aim of living the life of a respectable bourgeois. As a rule, apart hotels are chosen for this purpose, and this is about 70% of the estate market in Batumi now for the moment. A person plans to make money on change and received a fixed income from the rent. The price of main asset should grow year after year, plus the account should be replenished every month with impressive amount from the management company that shall rent and maintain the apartment. You must know that not a single developer in the whole world shall write you a financially negative scenario for a business model of such renting. This does not mean that all brochures are lying. No, those scenarios that you read in brochures of a building company are possible too. And as far as I know from a number of developers, they came through one way or another way. But after all, no one took into account such nuances as coronavirus or closing of flights from Russia, for example. This event also affected the real estate market in Batumi. Not so bad as the pessimists thought. The market simply shifted to a different consumer, but it took time. By the way, the coronavirus has ended and the tourist flow is recovering, and Russia has begun rhetoric about the resumption of flights, and number of tourists from the other countries raised for 10-15%. By the way, in my opinion, when air traffic with Russia shall open again, it will push the market up 15% immediately minimum. This is how all the markets in the world work. With good news, they immediately take off, and with bad news, they fall. But real estate markets usually stagnate instead of falling. Also, there are exceptions. I'll talk about them later. Now let's move to the important part, which is called changes in the city Batumi over the past 3 years. I have already done the demarcation of Batumi by districts with a detailed description of a particular district in the video All the Truth About Real Estate in Batumi 2020 version. Sorry, but it's still only in Russian. Try to watch it. Some infographics that are intuitive, clear for all people, not only for Russian speaking. At 21st, we will only talk about what is changing in the urban environment. I'll go through the points and start perhaps with the Alley of Heroes. The largest number of construction projects was recorded there, and here today there are major changes. The most important and most pleasant thing for me is that Batumi Mayor's office has begun to actively improve the infrastructure. For example, the middle part of Alley of Heroes, intended for walks and entertainment, initially did not it look very attractive before. Rare palm trees were planted there, there were several benches, and the whole space was rolled up with concrete. There was no special comfort being there. Now there is a complete reconstruction. Boring concrete was blown up, flower beds were placed there, several times more artificial objects and benches were installed. Also, this park is fenced off from the roadway with a fence, which should partially protect vacationers from the noise and dust of the road. This is a good, useful innovation. You can already see what happens. Also, over the past year, the fences were removed and two complexes were opened. This is Dart Tower and the New Wave. You can now walk along the side of the Alley of Heroes along the sidewalk. Also completed works on treatment facilities in the Magnolia area. They must serve new buildings in the area of the Alley of Heroes. The adjoining territory of several houses behind the Allianz complex, which by the way also opened and filled in the summer season, is in a sad state. There is unconfirmed information that they are planning to build a new police station there, but that is not officially confirmed still. During the period of pandemic, among other things, a complete reconstruction of the airport was carried out in Batumi. Another additional terminal has appeared, and generally the airport was spread and added one more terminal. For a city with a population of 150,000 people, this is more than enough. For comparison, you can see how the airport in Alania looks like. It is also small. Basically, the Batumi airport now receives flights from Ukraine, Belarus, Turkey, the Emirates, Israel and Kazakhstan. The real estate buyers market in Batumi looks the same. Europeans get to Batumi via flights to Kutaisi. These are mainly tourists from Poland and Germany. What happened to a traffic in the city, I mean? Over the past year, the traffic pattern in Batumi has completely changed. Most of busy streets have become one-way. That made it possible to redistribute the traffic flow between Chavchavadze, Gorgiladze and Trustavele streets. New marking were applied. New electric buses were launched into the city, which were purchased with the support of European Union. Special thanks to the authorities of Batumi for organizing small squares in the city. Such squares appeared in the area of Kabaladze Street in Adlea. A large public space was opened near the cathedral in the old city. In general, at the moment, the administration solves the problem of a spontaneous development which Batumi underwent at the first stage of the resort boom. I also want to know that changes that have affected the embankment, I mean Batumi Boulevard, that is more than 7 kilometers long. If we compare the empty Batumi Boulevard 3 years ago and what is happening now, the number of seasonal establishments has increased several times. A couple of large restaurants and dozens of outdoor cafes have opened. They have opened. They operate mainly in the summer and close during the off-season. Finally, there are chill zones with soft mattresses and sun loungers. About 3 years ago, they could be counted with fingers on one palm. I can't say that absolutely all projects look good, but there are really good establishments styled as Thai bungalows or Eastern chaihanas and much more. How profitable it is, I think it will be possible to find out with the help of interview. As soon as I find a speaker from those who open there, I will definitely make a video. An important infrastructural nuance for Batumi is the laying of a central sewerage system. The project includes the construction of a central water supply and drainage system from Pori to Gonio. Over the past 6 months, I have not seen active work on the embankment, but during the pandemic, they buried a huge pipe along the entire coast. This is a serious decision for Batumi since a lot of wastewater simply goes into the sea, and the sea does not become cleaner from that action. But the main problem of Batumi Sea is mountain rivers and rains. You can get into a rainy summer and never really swim during the whole vacation. However, lack of beach relaxing can be compensated by amazing cuisine and wine, excursions to the nature reserves, and much more. The details of these goods you can see in my videos on my Russian version of a channel. The section is called Suitable Places in Georgia. You don't need to speak Russian, just watch. Now let's talk about the most important thing, prices. How real estate prices have changed in Georgia during and after the pandemic period. I think I will record a separate video on this topic with a real estate agent. The dynamics should be even more visible to her, but in general prices have increased. If 3 years ago I bought an apartment with a stunning sea view in Adlia at the price of $400 per square meter, in a finished house with a black frame, and immediately began to renovate it, today the picture has changed. Now there are about 10 active construction projects in Adler, for example, and the cheapest price in a house under construction is $450 per square meters. You can add $100 or $150 to the price of $450 because the price shall rise till the end of contracting, and you shall see the dynamics of price growth over a 3-year interval. It should also be borne in mind that I was lucky and unlucky at the same time. I was lucky that the price in my house did not vary at all by floors and view characteristics. For the same price, one could buy an apartment with a courtyard view on a low floor, and apartment with a panoramic sea view or mountain view also. Now the price of such apartments with different view and on different levels from the developer can vary up to 1.5 times. Examples can be found in my reviews. And it was unlucky that before the end of all construction work, according to the developer's statement, palm trees should have landed around my house, practical palm landing. A playground had to be organized and commerce on the ground floor had to be filled. In general, the territory was underdeveloped, but the price was still low that it suited me. So I live in just a house where is flats and lifts, that's all. In a word, according to the developer's word, the most optimistic scenario did not happen, but it did not get any worse. By the way, I sell my apartment at the moment because I want a bigger one. If you have $35,000, you can buy it. Ask me in WhatsApp, I'll give you a video. There is a video of this apartment on my channel. Let's continue. It should be noted that there are still people on the market who did not have time to jump into the last car of the departing train at 400, and they periodically publish announcement that they are ready to buy at such low price. It is still theoretically possible in the district of the city where the house looks into the windows of neighborhood house. The apartment has one window, for example, for 50 square meters, and half of the building is not plastered. There you can find something. But they are cheap, aren't they? Truly, the price of such real estate object will not be particularly high because the developer has gone out of business forever, and dampness will creep in through unplastered wall. It will creep through unplastered wall, I mean, to your flat. And the population density around will slowly nullify all attempts by the municipal authorities to clean up the courtyard. Such realities also exist in Batumi, and you need to know about it. There is one more nuance that should be considered in. In Batumi, after the pandemic some developers remained who almost did not raise prices after the opening of the borders. Almost all of them during the pandemic did not make progress in constructing, according to my observations. Here you need to understand that any developer is a commercial structure. He has a monthly sales plan, and if this plan exceeds his expectations, he just raises the price. If the price rises and people keep buying, the price needs to be raised again. In the same time, in Sochi, for example, that is a city from the other side of Black Sea, prices have jumped twice per year, which was caused by a moratorium for construction. The market could not meet the needs of buyers and began to level the balance due to the rising prices. At the same time, most people who were buying real estate in Sochi for double price, at the same time they did not even think what caused the moratorium. The problem there was, and still it is, in the infrastructural collapse. The middle part of Sochi is overpopulated with people. At the moment, this is expressed in a traffic collapse when you leave the house and immediately find yourself in a traffic jam. And in order to get to Adler, takes a couple of hours for 20 kilometers by car. A similar problem threatens the middle part of Batumi. At the moment, the traffic collapse was solved by the mayor's office with changing the traffic inside the old city and middle Batumi. But there are a dozen more unfinished houses. After setting them, you can only dream of a comfortable life. Even if the genius of urban planning comes there, he will not be able to do anything simply because there will be nowhere to do. There will be no free space. The scenario of most megacities with will repeat itself. So I choose New Batumi district for myself 3 years ago, and I'm still right, I think. Here for another 10 years will be enough silence, the sea is nearby, and anthills with hypermarkets can be reached on foot in 10-15 minutes. At the same time, I'm quite clearly aware that there are people in the world who cannot fall asleep without the noise of motors under the window, the voices of another people, and other features of a big city. The desire to balance the silence and the availability of infrastructure is different for everyone. That's why I review all new buildings in Batumi and not only those ones that I personally like. The more complete is the picture of a market, the more objective the conclusion can be drawn. In general, I recommend visiting each of the districts in Batumi. I often shoot them on video and ask yourself one question. What will happen here in 5 years and will it suit you? A solid metropolis, a large village, a small town, mini Shanghai, and so on. It would be wrong to review all the real estate in Batumi and not touch the adjacent areas like Gonio with Kwariati or Mahinjauri. Many apartment complexes have been built there recently, and they attract with walking access to the sea. Oh my God, low building density in district around, and a lot of greenery. Batumi is rich of greenery. Even the most fierce critic of Georgia will not be able to say something against its nature. It is simply unique in each of its climatic zones. You need to understand that the complexes that are located far from the city itself and the basic infrastructure in the form of clinics, schools, kindergartens, hypermarkets. At the same time, there is a fairly large project in Chakvi that works only in the warm season, and this does not prevent it from paying off according to its plans. By the way, I have a video in English on my channel about this residential complex. You just need to take into account that out of season life quiets down there, and it is bad or good for everyone. It's your opinion. You just need to see and make your own decision. Let's talk about rates. It is important to consider that the service rates in the residential complex when you are buying a property. The more infrastructure facilities near the house, the more expensive the rate. In Georgia, rates are generally small. However, the maintenance of an apartment of, for example, 30 square meters at a rate of $1 per square meter in month turns into $360 per year. This is not a problem if you have investment property and you can recoup the costs by renting out. But if you keep the apartment only for yourself, you need to remember that fixed costs appear immediately after the complex is put to operation. By the way, in ordinary apartment buildings, the maintenance fee is just 25-30 lari per month and even 15 in some buildings, which brings us to an amount of $100 per year for maintenance of the house. It doesn't hurt so much, but for some reason most people don't even think about it. Now, very important thing is about the quality of construction. There is an opinion that the quality of construction in Batumi is below average. This is true. However, this does not mean that there are no good projects and quality houses in Batumi. There are people living in them, and according to the trend, I believe that the quality of construction, even over the last 3 years, has significantly changed for the better one. Many developers have abandoned cheap bark beetle type facades, no longer build houses without insulation. You will be surprised, but I really saw such houses where a heat insulating material was not even laid between the wall block and the plaster. Everything was so cheap and cheerful that you could get only a thin block with a layer of plaster smeared on it, which was not always painted even, separating your room from the street. That was only a block and nothing else. So don't try to buy the cheapest price. Such houses are still on market today. Cheap price quite always means low quality. That's absolutely on all markets. The cost for such crafting is much lower than for a high-quality house, and the lack of understanding of the situation by tenants who buy in such houses, and not all of us are engineers by the way, often led to the fact that they were doing finishing works in a wrong way, and dampness knocked outside in the rain on the walls, leaks and mold grows in the apartments. Which brings us to the problem of the excess of offers for rent in the Batumi city. Indeed, today there are a lot of rental offers in Batumi. Open the booking sites, Airbnb, for example, or Booking.com. The local is My Home G website. There are plenty of offers there. But at the same time, there is a serious lack of a good quality properties suitable for long-term living. People are looking for a good apartment for rent here for weeks. Let me give you an example. When I did not yet have housing in Georgia, we came to Batumi from Cyprus. I used the service of a real estate agent who rented me a one-bedroom apartment for the price of $400. It was situated between Pushkin and Bagration streets, not the best district. I will not give comments on the price. I will only say that in fact the rent there costed truly $200 or $250 for one bedroom apartment. The problem was not in the price. The apartment, which looked decent on the photos, was renovated by the cheapest materials, which led to the peeling after a month of my life. Peeling walls, I mean. As a bonus, a cheap gas water heater heated the water with varying degrees of success, and I had to wash myself in the interval between boiling water and the ice stream. The new bed creaked with a cheap grate, and the mattress on it was made for torture, really, the famous 400 lari mattresses. The faucet in the kitchen went out of order in the second month of life, and the kitchen doors sagged from the charging that the faucet had died. We fled shamefully. We ran away from this apartment on the third month of our life. By the way, the apartment with such renovation at the same price costed during that time $26,000. Just calculate your profit in your head, taking into account the bonus deposit of $300, which we actually donated to the housekeeper, and there are a great number of such apartments in Batumi. In my opinion, there is no demand for them, as there is no demand for prehistorical hotels where owners laid cheapest tiles and beautifully called it new renovation. Another example of my lease in Batumi with the good apartments, adequate renovation and the payback model you can see in the previous version of this video, All the Truth About Batumi. But sorry, it's only in Russian for the moment. I think I should soon make subtitles, and it will be easier for English-speaking persons to understand. And this model is still steadily giving up as I approached the owner a couple of times with the aim of adding some of my friends there, and he was constantly busy, so he could not rent me this apartment because they were living people. I also saw a blogger who filmed his version of the whole truth about real estate market in Batumi, and it consisted a little less than entirely of studying garbage dumps, old shabby houses, and every heap of garbage that the mayor's office did not have time to remove. Yes, I agree, there are problems in the city, and I mentioned that. But these problems are being solved. The city is growing, and every year it becomes more and more popular, because in addition to such a phenomenon as an immigrants, due to which resort cities developed historically earlier, such a social group as digital nomads has appeared. If someone doesn't know, then this is a part of society is like remote workers. And by the way, I am one of them. At a certain moment, they understood that nothing keeps them in a cold industrial city and go closer to the sea. Many countries are conquering for this group of people, and Georgia is among them. Special programs are being created for people with remote work. Moreover, the number of such professions is increasing exponentially every year. Today, it is no longer only the so-called internet users, internet workers, or photographers. There are accountants, engineers, teachers, and thousands of them. By the way, if this topic is interesting, write in the comments. I will make a video about what I know about remote professions market, making money on the internet, and how the transition from the everyday to work mode to the my workplace is in my backpack. A frequent question that people ask me in personal messages is about commercial real estate in Batumi. The main problem is that business development here is planned by people who want to go to the sea and don't know how to work remotely, and thus they want just to have a place for a job. Therefore, for them, the only more or less adequate criteria in commercial real estate is the price. This is pretty unreasonable in my opinion. All my experience in business, and this was even before I started the real estate working, shows that in commercial premises the most important thing is traffic. There are a lot of empty premises, a lot of empty estates in new buildings in Batumi. You can buy it even tomorrow, and developers estimate them much more expensive than living quarters for living flats, for example. But in their assessment, nothing is particularly embedded, and most importantly, there is no justification for this or that price. Before buying a commercial, you need to land near it and watch the stream of people passing by the object for a moment. Examine their habits, where they are coming from where they are coming and where they are going, their age, their approximately needs. You will notice that same streets, for example, has two sides, working and non-working. On non-working, people hardly ever walk, and the shops there are always empty. Also, having studied the routes of school children or employees in the mayor's office, you will understand that they simply do not walk past your future canteen. Also, it seems to be very close from their place to work and study. I can tell you a few dozen of such details. I hope separate videos will come in handy for this. It is for this reason that more than 90% of newly opened businesses are closed in the first year, but not 90% of new settlers who have moved into the new buildings change their place of residence. I hope the comparison is good. As a conclusion, I will tell you who I am in this market. The idea to run a channel about Georgia came by itself at a time when I, due to lack of information, went on a rake, spat from my own mistakes, including choosing wrong people, and finally decided to shoot a useful channel about what I see, backing up my words with the opinion of other people and video sequences. The picture cannot be distorted, but our perception can be. As a result, I have two channels, in Russian and in English, that is monetized a little by advertising on the YouTube. The equipment for filming is now sponsored by a real estate agent, whose contacts I share upon request, and I have another working project in my main profession, thanks to these channels. Plus, my knowledge in the field of filming and video editing has increased, and someday I will probably start making commercial videos for some good and interesting projects. In a word, it is convenient and profitable for me to do what I do without depending on anyone and without entering a slippery slope called business. I hope this video was useful for you and answered most of the questions about Batumi real estate. Thank you for your attention, and let's meet up at the sea, as I always say.